In this episode, we sit down with Charlie Mills, business owner, entrepreneur, and ex-reality TV star. In this episode, we talk about the sad loss of a parent at a very young age, the stresses and frustrations of being an entrepreneur and running a business, and how Charlie's perspective on life has changed, especially in the last 6 months. This episode is not to be missed. I hope you enjoy it. Charlie.
Hello, Tom.
Thank you so much for joining me, mate, and taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the podcast. It's much appreciated.
That's my pleasure.
So, you're in the process of running aesthetics, wellness, products, everything business. You're a leader.
Yeah.
How are things going?
Yeah, really, really well. Yeah, well, thank you. We're entering into year 4 now, which is really exciting for us. So, being a new brand, we're still doing a lot to grow the business. But yeah, it's going really well, thanks.
You started in just after COVID.
We launched just after COVID, yeah. But we started the business in 2018. So started sort of that brand development stage, that early stage of a business in 2018, late 2018. So yeah, COVID came along just as we were preparing to launch and kind of threw a spanner in the works, which in hindsight was probably a good thing. I think, you can never have enough time to actually prepare to launch a business. I'm a big advocate for, running before you can walk. I think you can't learn to drive in a parked car. And that's something which I do tell myself when I'm looking at new projects. But I think COVID definitely came along at a time when we needed a bit more time to prepare. And that's why I think, we were so successful launching was because we had that extra time.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
It is a wonderful thing, yeah. It's I find myself looking back at hindsight and thinking, quite a lot.
I like what you said just before we started filming. You said that there was a lot of mistakes made, but there was a lot of lessons as well.
Yeah.
And I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, just in day-to-day life, really, if you have that mindset that, it's inevitable that we're going to make mistakes, we're human beings, but as long as we learn along the way, then we'll continue to grow and become better.
Definitely. Yeah, no, 100%. I think someone said something to me the other day, and it was, I was looking back at, everything in sort of the setup stage of the business that I, fucked up on, and looked at what had come from that. And every sort of stage where something had gone wrong, something better came from that. So if something had gone wrong, you think, shit, what am I going to do? And then something better does come along. And that is something that frequently happens with, touch wood, it continues to, but that's something that frequently happens with this business.
With the business then, what have you found, obviously COVID being one of them, what is the biggest challenge that you found so far with the business?
I think reaching to your niche, it's very easy to try and get everyone's attention when you're starting a business. Everyone in the industry, you want them all to hear about it, or everyone who's a potential customer, you want them to hear about it. But there are people who are already in your niche, who already are looking for something that you offer. So I think finding those people has always been quite tricky. But yeah, getting your message or your voice out there is difficult, especially in such a saturated market. I think it's probably one of the trickiest things.
There's a saying, isn't there? It's like if you try and catch all the flies, you catch none.
Yeah.
Try and catch one.
There's something along those lines. Yeah. I'm thinking of the visual representation of it.
But we know where we're going with it.
There's a visual representation of it, and there's a little hole at the bottom of like a ski slope.
Yeah.
And someone throws all these tennis balls down this ski slope, and none of them go in.
Yeah.
And then they throw one, and they almost like roll it like a bowling ball, and it goes straight in the hole, which is kind of the visual representation.
I love the mindset on that though, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you want to do absolutely everything there. And I've found this in the past. You spread yourself too thin, you end up doing absolutely nothing, and then you just become extremely frustrated with yourself.
100%.
So I love that is one of the biggest challenges. But one of the biggest challenges, and you had the self-awareness to realise that, and then you've doubled down on it. You found that niche, and now obviously it's paying dividends.
Definitely. When we launched, I wanted to sell to everyone. But not everyone wanted me to sell to them. But there are so many people, so many business owners who aligns with our ethos perfectly, and we've sort of got traction with them now, got traction in the industry. So it's just growing. I mean, the year we've had already has been our best year that we've had. But then again, we've only been going 4 years. But the quarter we've just had, that we've just closed on, has just been insane.
Yeah.
It's been
Congratulations.
crazy. No, cheers.
It's a buzz, isn't it?
It is a buzz. It is a buzz. It's like I'm now obviously, I said to you earlier before we started. Last year had its sort of ups and downs. Started off on a bit of a downer, but then just flew, and I'm sort of continuing on that tangent, which is just couldn't be happier with it.
I think a lot of people had a similar year last year.
Yeah.
Well, the furniture business, we had a bit of an up and down year last year. We had 2 phenomenal years. My dad retired in 21. I took over. We had 2 insane years that I would have never forecasted. And then probably similar to yourself, my expectations is just growth. Year on year, everything's just...
So you want to focus on?
Yeah, everything's amazing.
The exciting stuff.
And when it's not, you're like, what the fucking hell is going on? So last year was a similar year for us, but going back to that buzz, there's a lot of exciting things happening now. So it's... I feel like we're in a similar boat there.
Yeah,
there's exciting things coming, which is good to see.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, last year, started off, bit shitty from personal reasons.
Sure.
And then I just focused on work, focused on growth, focused a lot on what we would be able to do this year. And then just grew from that, which but it's going good now.
I'm glad to hear it, mate. Where do you find that this drive, this hard work, this ambition, where does that come from?
I think, so my mum is an entrepreneur. She's started businesses for a while. So growing up and seeing what she's, been able to achieve with her life has always impressed me. But also proving a lot to myself as well. I mean, in school, I wasn't by any means, in the top sets. I was always bottom set for absolutely everything. Undiagnosed, this, that, and the other. So growing up, I was never, praised for being clever or praised for really doing anything impressive. It was always, you're stupid, you're not clever, and that was what I've known of myself. So being able to do something which visually is impressive, or, even to myself, I still have to take a step back and look at what we've managed to do in such a short space of time. And that is a drive for me, looking back at where I've come from, but growing up, not being the smartest and not being that kind of, grade A student, but then, doing what we're doing now. I've always known that I was going to do something like this with my life. Didn't know what it was, until we started this company. Had no idea what it could be. As you know, I've done this, that, and the other in loads of different sort of spaces of all over the place. But yeah, starting this and seeing what we can do and actually having that vision where I can see where it's going. I know where it's going. And that gives me the drive every single day when I wake up, because I wake up and I see that end goal, that 10-year plan, maybe 20-year plan, but I know where it's going.
It's addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because you've got to get to it.
Yeah.
But you're going to get to it. There's no question about it.
I always say that. I say that Tom's Talks, obviously the furniture business, my dad started that, but Tom's Talks is something I've created. But I have a deep down desire and belief that it will be a multi-million, worldwide, renowned, recognised brand.
Awesome. And you know that, don't you?
I know it.
It's not even a question.
Yeah. I know it deep down in my soul.
It's not even a question.
So I love to hear that that's the same for you as well.
100%. I think one of the reasons why I hadn't started a business, being from my mum who is a serial entrepreneur and enjoys starting and growing businesses, who's done very well for herself. I think the reason why I didn't think I could start my own business, until now, was because I didn't have that end sight. But when we sort of were developing Galida and discussing it and discussing the kind of brand that it was going to be, I could see that end goal of where it is going to go. And it's just sort of working your way back from that. And that's why I have that drive every day, because I can see where it's going. I know where it's going to go, which is my motivation daily.
I love it, man. I love it.
Just a quick one. Most of you watching this episode aren't yet subscribed. So if you want your weekly motivation from some incredible guests, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on.
What was going on before you started the company then? I'm interested to know a little bit more about that. So you're 31 now, so you would have been, 26, 27 when you started?
27, I think.
27.
Yeah. Just turned 27. Yeah, I was in Dubai, and my mum rang me, and said, I'm looking at starting a new business purely for herself.
Yeah.
She was going into entering into her 60s, and she was starting to have the kind of treatments that Galida machines help with. And so she thought, I need to start my own business because nothing else is really working how I want it to work.
Yeah.
Would you like to run this business for me? Would you like to go in with me and start this company? And that's when I came on board and I said, yeah, we'll do it. Let's go for it. We'll have a look at how we can do it. And that's where it was all born. But before that, it was always different things. There was never really anything that I stuck to for quite a long time. When I turned 18, or when I was 17 actually, believe it or not, got scouted by a model agency. So went and did that, did it all over the world, did it in Milan, Paris, China, Japan, everywhere. And that was great. I did that probably until I was maybe 24, 25, something like that. And that was good. But it got me into, a lot of different scenes that I hadn't really been used to. The party scene, London party scene, the Paris, Milan party scene are all insane. So got carried away with that.
Right, had a bit of fun there.
A lot of fun, years of fun. That was exciting. And then after modelling, that's when I, was sort of living in London, partying, not really doing much, and then obviously got asked to do the Made in Chelsea show.
Yeah.
Which was fun.
Was it one? Which series was it?
13.
13.
Yeah, which is a lucky number.
Yeah.
Series 13.
And was it the full series?
It was half the series.
Okay.
And then partying got in the way of sort of,
So how was that experience then?
doing that show?
Yeah.
Interesting. From watching it, throughout school, because we all watched Made in Chelsea. Growing up and going to a private school, everyone's watching that show. So from watching it and then going into it and doing it, it's completely different. Without saying too much, you realise how it works.
Sure.
I went into it very naive.
How old were you when you went into it then?
I think I was probably 25.
Okay.
So I can't remember how old I was. Yeah, I'd say about 25.
Yeah.
Going into it completely naive. I had spoken to people who had been on it before, and they kind of gave me, a little bit of an idea, but I didn't realise, how it really was. But it was fun at the start, and then I sort of went more off it. Wouldn't turn up to call times. That was for a few reasons. At that time I was partying a bit too much. Not the best stage of my life, I don't think.
Sure.
But yeah, it was interesting, eye-opening. But I'm glad I didn't continue with it, if I'm honest. It was taking a toll on me, my mental health. That was definitely questionable at the time. So yeah, I don't think I should have continued with the show or continued putting myself out there. And following that, I was very closed off in everything else I did.
Was it as simple as a conversation, as if to say, look, I'm not interested in doing it anymore? Or?
No, it was. So I actually my partying got really out of hand.
Okay.
And I was arrested for drink driving.
Right.
And so following that, which, was a dark time in my life, that's when, the show said, you can't be on the show anymore.
Right.
Which was completely understandable.
Yeah.
But I think, following that, when you've been on that kind of show, you open yourself up to the attention.
Sure.
And following, getting arrested for that, which, was shit. It was in, all the press, which you can't control. It's going to be in there anyway. So seeing, people, and you always read those kind of comments that are on, those websites. It was, quite a dark time following that. Before that, but also following that was pretty shit. So just kind of retreated back up to the north, and just kind of got myself into a hole and continued it. The partying continued, but I closed myself off to pretty much everything, which is kind of what I always did growing up. Just to numbed it with whatever I could numb it with. The embarrassment of what I had done, and also the.
Did you get charged with that then?
Yeah. I had a fine and a ban
Right.
So, yeah.
These things happen, mate. You know,
They do.
We make mistakes.
I think as long as you learn from them,
Yeah.
I think mistakes are valuable lessons in life. You know, like we said earlier with business, you make mistakes in business, but as long as you learn from those mistakes, they're going to be valuable lessons. And I think that was one of my valuable lessons.
What was it that you said it was a dark time in your life, and partying was something that was a little bit more frequent than what you'd like? What was it that you, looking back now with, you know, the life experience that you've got, do you put that, I mean, obviously, we're all young, we're all going out, we're partying, but if it was more frequent than what other people would be doing it, do you put that down to anything in particular, or did you just generally like a drink and like going out?
To be honest, at the start, yeah, of course, you know, everyone wants to go out and wants to have a nice time with their friends and, you know, wants to, you know, look cool to their friends. That's normal. But for me personally, you know, from our previous conversations, I told you, obviously about my dad passing away when I was, you know, very young. And I think growing up without a father, but also having all that unresolved, you know, trauma swirling around in you, and not having a father figure to, you know, correct you in certain things. You know, my mum was, you know, working her arse off every day at the office to try and provide for her 3 sons. You know, so she was there, but not all the time. So growing up and not having that sort of father figure in your life, I think, you know, you're bound to go on, you know, shit path. So there was a lot of trying to just numb that sort of that pain, but also just try and find normality or just forget about it. You know, forget about trauma and also fit in somewhere. And I think that's what fueled that, was that, you know, unreleased emotion for, you know, the passing of someone who is very important, but also you know, trying to fit in somewhere, and trying to, you know, because I'd always been so closed off, I think trying to make friends was quite important as well.
It's interesting that the guy that I'd done an episode previous to this, he was saying that as men we have a habit of thinking that the more we drink, the less we're going to think about the trauma that we've been through. It's just,
I'd say that's quite true, isn't it?
It's not the case, is it?
Not anymore. I think when you realise that, then that's good. But yeah, it's probably the only way that the majority of men have tried to numb those problems or forget them, even just for an evening. You know, I've definitely been guilty of it.
Don't you find though, like I was speaking to a client this morning, like as men, especially in the UK, there is a culture of going out every weekend and getting off your head and getting smashed and stuff like that. As much as I don't agree with it, and I've been there and I've done it in the past, I don't really drink that much anymore. I still do, just very rarely on odd occasions. But I still find that there is a place for having a pint with your mate.
Yeah,
because when you have a pint, like I feel like, and I'll give you an example. I went through a stage of having really bad nightmares about what happened to my brother, and I went to play golf with my dad, and he noticed there wasn't something right with her. And it wasn't until after we had a pint together, and I had the pint, and then I started opening up, and I loosened up a little bit, and it was just like, obviously alcohol can be detrimental to a lot of people, but it did give me that.
Yeah, no,
do you know what I mean?
I agree. I do agree with you. I've started going. I've been going to the gym since, you know, my previous relationship ended. That I just threw myself into going to the gym. So now when friends will message me, I will say, do you fancy coming to the gym with me? We can have a chat. But it is, you know, when you have a pint with someone, it's completely different, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just us getting to the third or
fourth.
But
it's never like it's never, you know, a vodka or a Red Bull and vodka. It's always a pint, isn't it? It's just something which is homely in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think getting you know, becoming single, I tried to stop drinking because that had always been something that got out of hand. Yeah. So, you know, when my relationship ended about a year ago, which was, you know, it was probably the most serious. Well, it was the most serious relationship I've ever been in. You know, 4-year-long relationship, you know, planned future together. When that ended, I knew I was going to go one of two ways. You know, I was either going to go in the direction of where I was before, which was that drinking, drugs, partying, you know, numbing those emotions, because that's how I knew how to numb emotions. Or I was just going to completely throw myself into my job, my business, which, you know, I love love doing, and I love the way it's growing. So that's the direction I took, was throwing myself into growing a leader. And last year was crazy in terms of business, and the last 6 months was great in terms of personal growth as well. So yeah, but then again, what I said before, good has come out of that kind of bad experience. A lot of good has come, because I'll be honest, I wasn't the best person in that relationship. So realizing that and changing myself has probably been one of my biggest achievements. Last year was, yeah.
It's great that you recognise that though. Self-awareness.
Only
is key in
recently,
this.
yeah. Recently, my self-awareness has grown. I think probably the last quarter of last year. So like September, October, November, December. That for me was a lot more. When I had a lot more self-awareness, when I realised a lot of things, I actually took a step back, looked at myself, looked at the business, looked at kind of the person I was. But look, I'm still working through a lot of things, as I think we all do. We're all continuously working through.
Yeah.
But it's only recently that I've opened myself up to myself and sort of tried to understand, why I'm this way, why I'm that way, why I feel like this, because of, number one, things that have happened in the past. And it's weird how that does affect, what happens in the future.
Of course, yeah, it's a big part of it.
And I think your life goes round in those circles until you realise it and you can stop it, so then it can continue and not continue just going round and round.
Exactly, mate. We underestimate the impact that things from 20 years ago, from 15 years ago, from the first couple of years of our life, how much of an impact they will have. Like, for example, certain things that have happened in my life, things that my parents have done positively, negatively, their divorce, how that shaped my perspective on and perception on that. Growing up, like so many different things, like my values and my beliefs and everything is all an accumulation of every single experience that's happened in the past.
Yeah, you don't realise that though.
At all. Well, again, talking about, obviously, I love the fact that you have the self-awareness now to realise all these different things, and you've had this part of huge personal growth within the last quarter of last year. There's obviously, I feel like there's a lot of trauma that's you've experienced in the past, and things that have happened and shaped certain beliefs and values. Growing up with just your mother and very sadly losing your dad, I can imagine that was extremely difficult. And your mum sounds like a phenomenal entrepreneur and business owner. But I can imagine that must have maybe had more of a part to play than what you thought at the time.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think, especially growing, being a man, you need a male figure in your life. I did have a stepfather growing up. From a few years, after my father passed away, until probably 5 years ago, maybe a bit longer actually, maybe 6 years ago, who wasn't the best father figure, we'll say. And I think a lot of what he was like and what he did had those kind of traumatic experiences for me as well. Like, I don't have much memory growing up. That could be because I was, I think after my dad passed away, I think the emotion switch in me changed.
How old were you when your dad passed?
I think 2.5. So the memories aren't hugely there, but I think the trauma of that experience is. And the kind of the things I've been told about myself growing up, I think that sounds a bit weird,
Sure.
There was, for example, I think when my father passed away, the first thing I said to my mum was, I'm sorry that your husband's died. Which for a 2.5-year-old is a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
So I think the emotion switch in me kind of went a bit wonky, and that's kind of how it's been for a long time until I've started to really unpick myself and look at how things are. And now I do sort of catch myself, not in an old way, but thinking in sort of how I would used to, how I used to think, and just correcting that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, every young man needs a good father figure in their life, I think.
I agree 100%. Having a father figure is so important, but having a negative role model, or not a role model, but having a negative male influence in your life, having a positive male influence is important. Not having one is obviously not ideal, but having a negative one, I can imagine the impact that had.
Yeah, huge, especially in, looking at sort of my self-confidence growing up, that was, definitely knocked by that person. But what is unfortunate, and in my past relationship as well, I did notice there were little traits of how he was.
Right.
He was a very sort of a controlling person in a lot of different ways. I think when my mother, when she came across him, we'll say, she was a great target. She's a relatively successful businesswoman. 3 kids, nice house. So I think in a way he was a little bit emasculated by being with that kind of a woman, and he was a bit he was very controlling because of it, with a lot of things, what she would wear, our finances, everything. And I realise or recognise certain traits that he was like. I've recognised them now in my past relationship, recognise them in my everyday life, until, like I said, probably coming on to a year ago, 9 months, and when I started to really take a step back and look at the person I was, and then decide the person I actually wanted to be. And having that realisation, and having also that opportunity after my last relationship, having that opportunity to decide which way I wanted to go. And I chose this way, and in my head, okay, what do I need to now look at and do and concentrate on to ensure that I continue in this direction? And still checking things off the checklist, but it's going good.
No, I love it, man. I'm glad to hear it. What was the relationship? Are you the middle, oldest, youngest?
I'm the big brother.
You're the big brother?
Yeah, I'm the big brother.
So how old are you, the brothers?
They are, they're always 25 in my head, but I think they're 27, 28 now. So they're 2 years
twins?
below. Yeah, they're twins, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, they're twins. Look nothing alike, act nothing alike.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're twins. I was ganged up on as a kid, called names, ganged up on. But yeah, they...
So I imagine that being the oldest, there was a lot of responsibility that fell on your shoulders.
Yeah, especially after what happened when I was young. I think I, as the big brother, thought that I was I need to be in charge and I need to take care of my family, which is probably one of the reasons why I thought that I was the man of the house, and probably one of the reasons why my ex-stepdad and me probably clashed all the time, was because I knew best for my family, but he was trying to also be a controller. So I think...
What was his relationship like with your brothers?
A lot better than what mine was.
Really?
Yeah, I was treated a lot differently than they were, but they were younger, I think. So I think because I was older, I was almost a target.
Sure.
There's a lot of that is blocked out in my memory, and it's something that I'm working on now, is to sort of look back and sort of unpick those different things. But it was a very, very different relationship.
It must have come a point though where your mum obviously saw what your mum, your mum saw what you saw, if he's no longer in the picture.
Yeah, so that again happened recently.
Okay.
When I say recently, 5 years ago, and
does it feel like yesterday?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it still feels like yesterday. When someone's in your life for so long, but our life, our family dynamic, my relationship with my mum, my relationship with both my brothers has changed significantly since he's been out of our life, which is phenomenal for us as a family, and really, really good. But yeah, I kind of saw the person that he was, I think, from quite a young age, and that's probably why he felt a bit threatened and wanted to make me out to be the bad child, or So
was there manipulation there
from him?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was emotional manipulation on myself, my mother even, and he's living under her roof. Yeah. It was it was a sad man, but I think one of my realizations is realizing probably he went through shit growing up as well. I don't necessarily like him, but I feel very sorry for him in quite a few ways.
I appreciate what you said there, because have you ever read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
I've got the book.
So there's a chapter, it's a fucking long book, but it's a great book, there's a chapter in that book that is called "Seek First to Understand,
Yeah.
Then Be Understood."
Yeah.
And obviously, people like your stepdad, obviously I don't know the guy, but there's got to be a reason why he is that way. And like you said, and you don't have to like the guy, but feel sorry for the guy as to the reason why he was the way he was, because he's obviously
100%.
gone through some form of trauma himself. And you said earlier as well, which I noticed, is that you saw some traits that he had slipping into how you were.
Yeah.
But luckily, you had the self-awareness to understand that, and quite, quickly thought, "Fucking hell, I don't want to be that guy." But it's an interesting chapter because we always think about ourselves, always. Like the number one person that loves you is you.
Yep.
And we always think about our own situation and think about our own thoughts. But when something's going wrong, we always instantly think about why is this going wrong? We don't think of the reason, like, why is it gone wrong for other people? And something that within running this business, it's not very often. I'm very fortunate that 99% of our clients are great and very lucky, but sometimes we have disgruntled people we have to deal with. And I'll always use the phrase, seek first to understand, then be understood. And more often than not, I'm thinking they're probably under a shitload of pressure from somebody else to get this project delivered on time. So the reason why they're stressing and being angry at me is because I'm the one that's holding that. So
they need someone to put their grief onto.
Yeah.
I understand.
And it's like, for example, just completely off tangent, but when you're on social media and you're posting certain things, and on TikTok especially, people are giving you shit or saying certain things. Again, I'm lucky that it doesn't happen very often, but seek first to understand. It's obviously a reflection on them, isn't it?
Social media is probably the best example for that. You know, when you get those kind of comments, which I did used to get. Luckily, now I've kept my head down from that kind of public eye lifestyle, and focused on work. So a lot of my interactions are with people in my own industry, which is great. But there were times when I had something similar. But now I would look back and think, they're probably sad, upset with their own lives, or someone's calling them the same names that they're now calling me. It's
a reflection on them.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of how I look at that situation. That situation with my stepdad is probably something very, very along those lines.
Does it give you peace knowing that?
Yeah, I realised something the other day. There was another situation was happening in business actually, where someone was taking our success and passing it on as their own.
Right.
And I was getting a bit, pissed off about it. So I, called someone I know, and we had a conversation, and came to the realisation that the reason I was getting so angry in that situation was because of the same situation that happened with my stepdad. He came along, passed my mum's success off as his own. He was at the golf club every day. Passed that off as his own, and it was a very similar feeling, which I didn't realise until I sort of stepped back and actually looked at the two and thought, yeah, you know what, it is. So I think it's catching yourself, it's realising, and then, rejigging how your perspective of it.
Rephrasing.
Realising and rephrasing. And I think that's, when you realise that, you will realise a lot of things.
Definitely.
When you start having that kind of realisation.
And I think that's, again in life, the ultimate goal is to feel fulfilled, isn't it? It's to feel happy.
100%.
It's not realistic to say that you're going to be 100% happy every day, all day. But if you can feel content and happy and fulfilled on a day-to-day...
Yeah, definitely. Got to enjoy the process.
Enjoy the process, definitely. But I think that the only reason why we aren't is unmet expectations and our thoughts towards other people and expectations we have on other people. But again, it always comes down to our thoughts about the thing.
Yeah, well, our thoughts become things.
Yeah. So it's understanding the thought. Is the thought something that's worth turning into and validating, or is it just a thought? It's the power. The power of thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And there was a conversation I had with my therapist, and he was like, everything is a result of your thoughts, and whether you act on your thoughts and you don't act on your thoughts.
Yeah.
And happiness is a result of how the way you think about things.
Yeah.
And it was just like such an enlightening conversation.
100%.
And it's like, and again, the process of enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, is a result of getting to the end of the day and having a thought of, that was amazing, I enjoyed every second of that. Not having the thought of, when I've got this multi-million pound business and I'm earning this amount, that's when I'm going to be happy. It's the thought that's the thing.
Definitely, no, I 100% agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I think you've got to enjoy the journey as well. The journey is where you learn everything. You know, looking back on my journey until now, I've learned so much. And for me, yeah, that journey is so important. But yeah, you can get thoughts in your head for so many things. But it's how you react to those thoughts, how you externalize those thoughts that really will make the difference. But they're just thoughts at the end of the day.
Definitely.
If you're angry, you just reposition that thought process.
And again, it's the thought of, seek first to understand, then be understood. And the example I give you, my therapist, he gave me a book to read. It is a phenomenal book, but I forgot the name of the book. I was looking at what is it now? Why Didn't They Tell Us?
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. It's something along those lines. And he's giving an example of, there is this mother, and she's just had a baby girl, and the mother comes to resent this baby because the baby doesn't stop crying, and the mother is tired, frustrated, and really, really resenting this baby because of the fact that she just won't stop crying. And then I'm reading through this chapter, and anyway, the reason why the baby doesn't stop crying is because the baby is allergic to the mother's breast milk.
Oh, yeah. Poor mum though, but yeah, I understand that.
So it's like, rather than understanding the problem of why the baby feels that way, she just became to resent the baby.
Yeah.
Rather than understanding
looking why.
it was a produce from herself. There was the reason why the baby was crying. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't the baby's fault. It was just the situation that they were in. And I think that's the thing. It's been like a massive realization for me recently, is really trying to understand people's perspective, other people's perceptions of the thing. Because once you understand other people, then you are able to resolve the situation and the conflict around it, and everybody can leave the situation in more of a win-win mindset, rather than both leaving pissed off at each other for something that could have been easily resolved.
Understanding the why is, again, it's going back to hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, understanding the why with everything is a deal breaker. It'll really open up your mind to, you know, understanding other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, why are they feeling a certain way? Why are they like this?
Yeah.
You know, and when you realise it is, you do change that perspective, and then you probably end up feeling sorry for them or wanting to, you know, even help them in some situations.
Like with your stepdad. It's like, obviously, it doesn't sound like the greatest guy, but you empathise with that person.
Yeah, I do now. Yeah, you know, I didn't growing up and didn't in my 20s, but having working on myself this past year, I will in certain situations with other people or other areas I will get pissed off on that first instance.
But that's natural though, isn't it?
It is natural, but it's then how are you going to externalise it? Are you going to externalise exactly how you think, or are you going to reposition that and respond differently?
Yeah, react or respond.
Yeah. Respond, I think, is what you want to do. React, you need to take 5 minutes. I was very guilty of reacting, straight away.
Yeah. You can see that. I feel like you've got a calm demeanour about you.
I think I have now.
Yeah. Was that always not the case then?
No, definitely not. No, definitely not. I was an angry child, I think, For me, growing up, and having, lost my dad at such a young age, I think I was just naturally very pissed off with the world. Well, why should that have been me? Why was it us? Why was it my mum who lost the love of her life? And and it was growing up in that sort of situation and being naturally an angry person. There was a lot of unresolved anger inside me, and again the past year working on myself, I've realised that I've managed to understand that. Feel sorry for that. You never want to feel sorry for yourself, but feeling sorry for the child that lost his dad and understanding him a bit more definitely helped to get that inner calmness, which I do feel I have a lot more of now. There used to be a lot of shit inside me, so the smallest thing could piss me off, Now it takes a bit more to piss me off. You know, I'll be honest. Everyone still gets a bit annoyed at certain things.
Yeah.
But it's different. But then again, you know, I'm not reacting how I used to.
No, you definitely
Used to react.
From the conversations we've had previously and meeting you for the first time in person, you definitely have a calm energy around you.
I appreciate that.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you.
But again, mate, we're human beings. We're always going to get pissed off at things, but it's up to us to choose how pissed off we get.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I came in at work early and I walked in the warehouse and I saw a lot of furniture that I was like, that should have got delivered direct. Why is it in the warehouse? And I was like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Walked in, there's a reason. I was like, it's fine. But again,
There is going to be a reason for most things.
Again, when I was younger, very similar to you, I think with what happened to my brother and other factors, I was very angry. I used to react to everything. But again, the part of life and the part of the journey that we're on is we're always growing, we're always becoming better. And now it takes a lot.
I know what you mean.
To piss me off. I've just gone through a bit of a process where I've had a bit of an up and down few weeks, and other than that,
Yeah, I think realizing, you know, for me that mainly in business, but a lot of the shit that's happened has resulted in something better happening.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the process. I enjoy the journey. I'm a big believer now that everything does happen for a reason. You know, there's been everything that could have gone wrong in the early stages of starting this business. They went wrong. You know, very expensive mistakes to very time costing mistakes. But looking back on it, it all needed to happen to get the business to where it is right now. And that, I think, when you look at that and you realise that it's
a beautiful place to be.
It is. So if things happen, they're meant to happen. Let them happen. Let them take their course. We'll deal with it in our way, but we're not gonna, get angry about it. You know, there's a lot of time. I think when you're starting a business or when you're running a business, especially, you think you've got a time limit. You think you've got a time constraint. You know, you think you need to reach this goal by tomorrow or by yesterday. So there's you put a lot of pressure on yourself, and I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed with that pressure. But it's all a journey, and it's all meant to happen. You know, things that go wrong are meant to go wrong, because if they go wrong in 10 years' time and they've never gone wrong before, then you're not going to know what to do. Whereas if they go wrong now, thank goodness they're going wrong now.
Yeah.
Because you can learn from them, and when they do happen again, because they will happen again in the future, you know how to overcome that and you know how to get through that. And I think that's really, really important. I wish I'd started writing down all these lessons, early stage, so I could just remember them, and then I've got my handbook. But I think you naturally, it's almost like muscle memory. I think you naturally will remember.
Can you give me an example of, because when you said that, I'm thinking of an example in my business where there's a mistake I've made,
Yep.
and I've very much learned from it now. Can you give me an example of like something that's happened in your business in the last 5 years where at the time you're like, fucking hell, and then now you look back and you're like, I'm glad it happened, I've learned.
Okay, trying to think what would be the best analogy. I'd say like launching the business. Everything prior in my life, had just been, the bigger the better in a way. Okay. So we do, or we used to do trade shows, trade conferences. And the first one we did, we must have spent about £250,000, which, from trade shows, they cost a lot, but they don't cost that much.
Yeah.
We
Still
had
a lot of money though.
Huge amount of money. We had, the biggest, stand, the biggest everything. And we really didn't need that whatsoever. That was one of our ex-MD, it was our sort of, egos, coming into play. She'd worked in the industry previously, so she thought that she had to prove herself to other brands. And I was new, and I just this is what I thought needed to happen. So looking back, didn't even need a fifth of that to successfully launch it. Probably could do with it now. That would be great to do it now, in the sort of the stage that we are. Sure. But back then, didn't need to do that. Yeah. That's probably one of the main things that I have realizations on. Is the spending at that point was crazy. Mm-hmm.
That's a similar example to the one I was going to give. It's about the money side of things. I'll not say too much, but
I think in a business it usually is.
It
usually is. The finance side of things.
Yeah. I think without saying too much, I thought I had a lot when I took over this business. I thought I was a lot richer than I actually was, but I won't say too much more.
That's fine. No, that's fine. It is. I think it is a lot of the time. In business, which is what we were talking about, it is down to down to that. But yeah, the first, or even the first year, just wasted so much money.
God, yeah.
And I wish I'd saved it, grown that sort of client base slowly, and now done it, because our voice back then was just as talking now. Now it's on a big gramophone.
Yeah.
So our voice has grown, our client base has grown, the knowledge about our brand has grown. So I wish I now had that nice, juicy budget to blow now. That would be a dream come true.
It's the stresses of business, isn't it?
It is. Business comes with stresses, but that's why not many people do it.
And you get the rewards at the end of it, don't you?
You certainly get the rewards.
Most of the
You
time.
hope so, anyway.
No, it's like my office manager, Toby, and Brent, who was our credit controller, was like, we need a new van, it's going to cost this much. And then our operations manager was like, this is the new catalogue, it's going to cost this much.
Oh, yeah. The costs add up every month.
Yeah.
I mean, we get new things printed, new designs done, new packaging, and you think, oh shit, this is really adding up.
It's like you work out what your fixed costs are, what your overheads are.
Yeah, your overheads, yeah.
And then you're looking at your forecasting and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be a decent year, this. And then all these other hidden costs
You
come
don't
out.
prep, you don't
Yeah,
prep.
they come out of the pipework, and then you get your year-end accounts, you're looking at it thinking, there's still, again, you're grateful.
Yeah,
I think that's the main thing I'm trying to say, is that I'm grateful for everything that we've got, but it's never actually what you think is going to happen. Very rarely ever happens.
No, and that's the beauty of life,
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
isn't it?
Of course it is.
If we wouldn't be interesting if you knew how it was going to end.
No.
You just sort of
Yeah,
sit back
true.
in your arse and be like, well, fine.
Yeah.
But no, you just got to keep moving forwards. But the
journey.
Yeah, exactly. You got to enjoy the journey, and you got to be grateful for the journey as well. I mean, look, if I look into my life externally, and there are a million people who would love to be in this position. So it's being grateful for that. Being grateful for the lifestyle I've been given, which I'll be honest is great. It's a great life. Obviously growing up externally, again, it would look like it was great, but internally not so great. But now, it is good. I enjoy it, and it's easy to think I'm not where I want to be, but I'm where a million people would kill to be. So being grateful for that, and the position that I'm in right now, being able to build my own business, is something which I'm hugely grateful for, and I love. I love what I do.
That's the main thing.
I think you've got to.
You've got to be obsessed with it.
I think everything I did prior launching this business was in preparation for launching this business. The fuck ups from modelling, Made in Chelsea, all of that prepared me in a way. I'll be honest with you, Made in Chelsea, it gave me a platform. It gave me a platform. Yeah, I did well from modelling before. Got a nice following. That was great. Met loads of people, fantastic. Loads of brand owners. It was great, but then going into MIC, they gave me a platform, got me more publicly known, which, had its downsides, straight after the show with all the shit that happened, all the shit that I did. But now it's sort of given me a lot of tools to successfully launch or successfully do what I'm doing now. So I think everything happens for a reason, and you've just got to look back at your life and realise that's why that happened, or that's why this happened. And it's crazy when you look at that and start connecting the dots. It becomes apparent quick.
I think you sort of answered the question that I was going to ask next. How old are you? 2 questions. You were 20. Just remind me. Sorry, you were 27 when you started Galida.
I think just turned 28. Actually, thinking back on it.
And how old were you when your stepdad left?
Then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is, and then like I said, I think you've already answered it with exactly what you just said, but I'll ask it anyway. If you could go back to 27-year-old Charlie, this man that you had a lot of bad experiences with has left. You've just started this business now that is going phenomenally well. You've obviously had some challenges over the years. You could go back to 27-year-old Charlie. What would that conversation go like?
You know what, I tried to think of this the other day when I saw something on Instagram, and it's people saying I had coffee with my younger self. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And I thought, what would I say? Or what would that conversation look like? And I think for me, I think it's was very easy for me to get carried away with what other people think. And I was born into a family who start businesses. My mum is successful in her own right. So people will look at me and think this guy naturally has the ability to start a successful business. So from day one, I think I wanted people to look at it and think it's a successful business. You don't need to worry about what other people think. That for me, when I realised that, and now I really don't, that for me was huge. When I stopped having that actual fear of what other people think, like I've got to do well because other people are watching. That was big, and that would then go down to you don't need to have this crazy fucking show stand and spend all this money on this launch packet. You don't need to do this. Just take your own time with things because there is going to be time to do it. Definitely in the first year or first 2 years, everything needed to be done, but we're only really doing things now that we planned to do back then, and we're in a much better position to be doing them, which is crazy. But yeah, I'd say that would be my first thing to say, and then I'll just be proud of yourself. You have gone through a lot, and what you've done I think is impressive in the short space of time, without blowing my own trumpet.
No, it's definitely it's very, very impressive, mate. I think everybody should blow their own trumpet a little bit more.
You've got to do it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think you have to, because who else is really gonna, apart from your significant other, your parents, your brothers. I think you've got to realise that's self-love. That's self-love.
Celebrate those achievements.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Again, on the podcast previous to this one, was talking about perspective and mindset, and for me, gratitude and celebrating your achievements is the two habits that is gonna change that perspective. We fall very short sometimes of always thinking when I get there or when I do that or when I have that, I'll be happy.
So enjoy the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that, mate. Enjoy the journey. What's next for Galida then?
When's this podcast coming out? Because it depends.
Be in a couple of weeks.
So
say what you can. You don't have to say everything.
We've got a lot going on at the moment. Like business is busy, but it is the best stage. We've launched, we're launching new products. We're really giving a push into the fitness side of things, which is really exciting with a new device for fitness and rehabilitation. Without going into my sales, you know what I mean? Without
Sell
going
it, mate. I mean, I'm all for it.
We're launching some really cool products. Launching a skincare line, which is incredible.
If you need anybody to,
I'll send you some products. But yeah, there's a lot going on in terms of that, new products, but also new countries as well.
Wow. So
launching abroad, which
amazing.
which is one of the things that I dreamt of when we launched the business. And I would say it's a natural time to be expanding into other markets now, and that's what we're doing this year. So it's super exciting. Yeah,
I love it, mate. Thank you for sharing. And
no, my pleasure.
I really appreciate your the rawness and the openness and the transparency of the conversation, mate. And the reason for the podcast is to sit down and explore other people's journeys. And you've obviously been through a lot. You've overcome a lot. And there'll be people listening that can hear your story and resonate and hopefully help them. So thank you, mate. Appreciate your time.
No, mate, my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, Tom.
Thank you.